something taken from one of two statements in the 2019 budget read by the Minister of Finance as the government's intentions to intensify the housing construction program in Trinidad and Tobago. We are engaging the private sector developers to construct homes with a view to expediting the supply of affordable housing for low and middle income applicants. This is something called the Housing Construction Incentive Program. Participation in this program is available to any person, construction or developer who wishes to and has demonstrated an ability to finance, build, and create housing units in accordance with the specifications and guidelines laid out for the Housing Construction Incentive Program, and who is prepared to construct housing units in accordance with the designs, specifications, and prices fixed by the Housing Development Corporation. Under this policy, private developers can provide the lands, or the state could make lands available with or without infrastructure. We have engaged 15 investors who wish to participate in the program, with an undertaking to construct 1,845 housing units by the end of 2021, when the program will expire. We will talk about the other program, or one of them, as a matter of fact, outlined in the budget. Philip Edward Alexander is the political leader of the Progressive Empowerment Party, and he's here with Janice Learmoncricky, the public relations officer of the party. We adjourned last week as he raised that as a challenge for the citizenry of Trinidad and Tobago, and he was saying that this is another area in which the administration now is faulty, is not meeting the needs of a lot of the people who are in need of basic shelter. Good morning.
Morning, Andy.
Good morning.
But first of all, what are your responses? What are your sentiments about what is outlined here in this something called the Housing Construction Incentive Program?
Well, let me say good morning to you, loyal listeners, and to our operator here. Good morning. I promise not to touch elaborate today. Andy, I want to say that is too little, too late. There's a lot of talk. It serves nothing. When you look at a house that costs the average person $1 million, half of that price goes to the bank in interest rates and charges. $500,000 is that. You're left with $500,000. That $500,000 has things in it like stamp duty, VAT, duty, and other governmental charges. The government, if it wanted to impact housing, would not have to engage 15 stakeholder investors to put aside $1.85 billion in the treasury to underwrite a plan that helps nobody. The real need in housing right now is at the lowest rung of society.
Well, this is what this is about. He says low and middle income applicants.
Did he apply a price?
No.
But I want to apply a price for you. Because the lowest rung of society is the minimum wage earner. The minimum wage earner can earn, working a normal month of work. I'm talking about going to work 8 to 4, 9 to 5, 9 to 6, putting in a normal month of work without working 2 jobs and 3 jobs. If you allow somebody to work a normal month of work so that they could go home and have quality time with their family and have leisure time with themselves, because all humans are entitled to all the same needs regardless of your financial position.
Yeah.
And the society that we want requires that parents get to spend time with their children. So we do not want our minimum wage earners working 2 and 3 jobs a day or 12 and 15 hours a day just trying to survive. A minimum wage earner can earn $2,250 a month. I'm talking about the bottom rung of society's financial ladder. $2,250 a month. The bank's threshold for loans for housing is 40%. That means of that $2,250 a month, $1,000 of your income has to be set aside just to service a mortgage. If the government does not adjust the rates of mortgages and the way mortgages are paid in this country, that $1,000 will not be able to afford them anything like a home that they could own for their families.
No, so in your view then, people working for that kind of income would not qualify for anything in
This
what
doesn't,
KCC is
when
doing.
you talk,
so those people will want to rent, right?
the Home Mortgage Bank tells you that to qualify for those houses, you have to be earning combined income of $14,000. That is nowhere near $2,250. The vast majority of people in need of this assistance are those people, and they are the largest catchment, the lowest rung, the poor, the working poor. Now we can, if we wanted to, because I just told you, you could take $500,000 off of $1 million house if you took away interest and deposit. If the government wanted to, we spend $9 billion a year on average on national security. That's $9,000 million. I could show you how that $9 billion in 1 year could build 90,000 houses. That a starter home, the material and labor in an actual 1,100 square foot starter home, if the government stripped basic building materials of duties, taxes, and VAT, and allowed the house, allowed the lowest rung of society to be able to afford proper, engineeringly sound starter homes, devoid of state taxes, devoid of VAT duty, stamp duty, and interest to the bank, you could reduce a starter home down to $200,000.
You know what it is now?
You could reduce a starter home, brick, wooden doors, wooden windows, steel windows, galvanized roof, proper straps, hurricane straps, electrical, plumbing, outfitted, and ready to go, on a foundation, concrete foundation, a proper home, starter home, 1,100 square feet. 1,100 square feet is bigger than what they're selling in West Hills, which is a middle-class development in Diego Martin. So when I tell you a starter home, I'm not talking about a box. I'm talking about a 2-bedroom with maybe even a little small office or something that you know we would use as a half a bedroom. But you would make it possible for somebody to be able to afford a house at $200,000. Now, if you say 0 deposit, 0 interest for 30 years for first-time homeowners, and you reassign the money that you would have put to, say, national security and social development and the HDC, because that's about $20 billion there, you could then make that money available as a security either to the existing banking sector, or you could unite Unit Trust, First Citizens Bank, and the Home Mortgage Bank and create this financial vehicle. Because what it would do, the reason this is so critical and important to society is the science shows, this last conversation you had before I came on the show, the science shows that all of the ills of Trinidad and Tobago are affected by the failure of people to be able to own a home and raise their family and leave some equity for their children behind.
There's another program that I want to come to, but staying with this.
I just want to finish this. At $200,000 for a house, one minimum wage baton twirler, floor mopper, earning $2,250 a month, each $100,000 in that $200,000 at 0 deposit, 0 interest for 30 years is $500. Right now, that is about $9,000.
So the HTC is not catering for home ownership for people in those income brackets, because I saw some figures which says that the current administration apparently is criticizing the last administration for setting the ceiling for the income ceiling for people seeking to qualify under the HGCS at $45,000 a month, and we're talking about combined incomes here. They are saying that they're moving it down to $25,000 a month, and it seems
$25,000 a month. I am talking to you about the average person that making $2,250 a month. When you go into a bakery, when you go into a restaurant, we treat the people behind those counters like they don't matter. We don't have them in the national conversation. And it is critical that they be brought into the conversation.
But they are to be renters. This is what I'm trying to get at, because we're talking in any case.
Why should that be the case? If you could build a home for somebody to rent, why can't you build that home for them to buy?
Because they don't have it. Well, okay, what you're saying there is
0 deposit, 0 interest, 30 years. Unit Trust has the money. First Citizens Bank has the ability. Home Mortgage Bank has the capacity. Why aren't we dealing with the need where the need exists? Fidelis Heights and Victoria Keys. Victoria Keys is upper class. Victoria Keys is an HDC project that is competing with La Fontaine, La Riviera, and Bayside. How did the HDC find its way there?
And nobody does. There's a question nobody seems to wonder.
How did the HDC find its way there?
The HDC was not under whichever administration. The HDC.
I don't care about which administration. I talk about the policy.
Yes, not be building that kind of.
Shakonia Crescent across from Four Roads, from Starlight next door to Four Roads Police Station. Those apartments cannot recover what they spent. They are going to put that into the market like they did with John John Towers. Remember John John Towers? We had to take the loss on John John Towers because what Hafiz Karamat built, what was approved, was beyond the capacity of the people to pay. And you weren't moving Westmoreland's people into John John. So you had to decide, burn it down, mash it down, or sell it cheap.
Which is what happened.
Which is what happened. Remember there was a time they wanted to put Dwight York and Ato Bolan in John John Towers.
Jack Warner's
insanity. We lose the plot. Andy, I just want to say this to you. Yeah. If you are managing a society, you need to always keep in mind the masses. The tenor and the tone of your society will be directly affected by how high society and the management of society treats with the people at the bottom rung. Mova, Beetham, Lavantil, Sealots, on all these other communities that we talk about all the time, are filled with people who are getting by paycheck and hustle, paycheck and hustle. We need to give these people a stake in the country. You could imagine if Abi Pujad and Big Yard became homeowners in a society, in a community where government and state support and local government and whatever is support, water. I shared something yesterday from How Stuff Works. How Stuff Works was telling people in America, and I was using as an analogy. You know, sometimes electricity might go off and cable might go off. Even the phones go off from time to time. But do you realize that water never goes off? And we live in a society where if you tell that to our citizens that you could offer a water management system where you have water 24/7, that it could never go off again, the people will say you're a madman, because our experience has said that is not true.
Yeah, all right. And there are different models that were proposed in this budget. There's something called the Aided Self-Help Program, which is supposed to be initiated in 24 communities across the country. 700 applicants have been selected from a list
of 190,000 people at HDC.
Right? And
we've selected 700 people out of 190,000 people at HDC. How did they work that magic?
Yeah, of a list of 5,000. I don't know how that list came about. In November 2017 to January 2018. And people, they're looking at one community in a place called Samuel Cooper Road in Maruga. Construction of 17 homes, reconstruction of 30, and improvement of 10. Citizens who invest in housing bonds will be given preference in the allocation of new HDC units and will be able to assign.
Andy, all of this is plain smart with stupidness. Excuse me, but I want to tell you something. You know the model, keep it simple. Keep it simple. Why all of these moving parts? Why not tell the entire country, all first-time homeowners, because we should put all of our funding, all of our available strength into this. Because you will rebuild the entire community from the ground up. The entire community, a nation is a collection of communities. Once you fix the community, you fix the country. Once you fix that, the country, all the other things we have to spend money on, we no longer have to spend the money on that. This is the reason why Netherlands and Japan and them have jail space to sell. Because their people are fully actualized, they're stakeholders in the state. When people living on a street are all homeowners, gangs can't set up there, drug blocks can't set up there, why not keep it simple? Why not say it to everyone? This is not just low class here, because our policy, what we've been proposing for a decade, takes it all the way into the lower end of the middle class.
But we don't think that there's some value in this, because this is what they call aided self-help program. So you go into a community, and the people who are living there, those people who want to build houses. But
it's a different version of the same. They've had these access grants before. There's a guy in the States that does videos with himself with question marks all over his body. And all he does is tells you all the different grants that exist in the country that you could take. And I see they publish grants today for the people who had losses in the flooding. But there's hoops to jump over and tubes to run through. Why can't we keep it simple? And I was going to suggest this to you. Why not pre-qualify every first-time homeowner? If you never owned a home before and you would like to own a home, come and have an interview with us. Let us know what your circumstances and situation is so we can pre-qualify you so that you know, based on your income and your wife's income and your present commitments, that you are pre-qualified to be able to spend $2,200 a month. And if you could spend $2,200 a month, you could buy a $400,000 house. So you are walking with a document from whatever is the name of this vehicle that says, I have qualified for $400,000. So you are asking $500,000 for this house. I could make you an offer now. And it's up to the buyer. The state have no business in that. The state's job is to protect the citizen. If you buy that house, that now becomes collateral in that loan. If you fail to pay for that house, the state could take the house and sell the house, like Republic Bank and RBC and Scotia does. So it's not a handout, it's a hand up. And I say again, the people at the lowest rungs are the people most likely to pay their bills. All of these credit agencies, all of these banks, all of these finance houses, Courts, Standard, American Stores, all of those hire purchase companies are predicated on and built on the smallest people in society who come in religiously. I know, I watched my mother when I was small set aside money for Singer. Set aside, you understand what I'm trying to tell you? These people, United Security, the Gonzalez family, a friend of mine, used to tell me that people would come in and pay their 30 cents.
They have a card every year and you take that.
The Syrian community used to go with a paper and collect. You buy your cloth on hire purchase.
With a grip.
The poor. We somewhere along the line, in the management of society, we've lost sight of the fact that the people at the bottom rung is our biggest concern. Because once they're happy, they push society forward. What Peter George and Mario Sabga both misstated and said that the middle class is the buffer from the lowest class. The poor, the lowest class in society, when they prosper, they balloon the middle class. And the middle class holds up the upper class. And everybody wins. We are doing it, what do you call it, ass backwards.
All right, but so, and there's another formula, and you could critique that as well. In
I'm not critiquing for critiquing's sake,
no,
I'm just trying to tell you that there's a simpler way to do this. Give people access to hope and opportunity and get out of the way.
And one of the other programs is where you meet people where they are, so that you have people living in what, for want of better terms, are called squatter communities.
Right.
You have the land settlement agency that will provide some measure of security, so you get the land. There is an initiative now to give people deeds of lease as opposed to...
I know, and all of these things, deeds of lease and letters of comfort.
Yes, we're moving away from letters of comfort.
But why so many, why so many complicated things? Why can't we say it is fish or it is fowl?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. So the intention base is to move away from the letters of comfort, because the last Minister of Housing said
you can't finance on a
no
letter of
value.
comfort. Yeah, you can't get no, you can't get no.
So that you're meeting people where they are, and then those people will have a deed which they can then go and try and use as collateral to build something that
yes, of
theirs.
course.
And that, so they get the land from the land settlement agency.
But this is what they did in Woodbrook.
And they build on their own terms.
This is what they did in Woodbrook. John Rahal, when he was mayor, sold the leases, for want of a better word, to the alleys that existed between houses, because I grew up in Woodbrook. And all houses, all streets, between the two streets, there was an alley that ran between the houses, a service trace, for want of a better word. And they sold that because it stopped having a purpose and it became a crime concern that people could access the backyards. So they sold that. All of the houses and all of the properties in Woodbrook that are being sold for millions of dollars do not belong to those people. They are all leased. Movie Town is a lease. Bayside Towers is a lease. Grand Bazaar is a lease. All of these people benefit from a lease. I see they're selling a building on Cocoreet where Polymer used to be, and they called a couple million, and they said in the offer of sale, that is $199 a year to the city corporation. So you know, you paid $199 a year for a piece of land that you're selling for multiples of millions of dollars. It is cockeyed, upside down, and twisted. We need to right size. I am telling you, you have to have some sort of audit of that HDC list, because the number of people we're talking about there don't add up with our population. Because
176,000 is what is the list now. And again,
so that sounds like
they're revising it. And the question
how is he doing that? How is he revising it?
Looking at who qualifies, who should be on it.
And that's the point. And that's the point. Because the HDC as a structure seems to be a political vehicle more than anything else. All parties use it to reward financiers and to vote apart, for want of a better word. Marlene McDonald stepped out of her crease, and in a real country, she would have been sanctioned when she gave out keys in Fort George and told people, now make sure you go and vote PNM. That is misbehavior in public office. You cannot blur the lines between politics and governance. When you use CPEP workers for public rallies, that's misbehavior in public office. That's taking public funds for political purposes as theft. We have to get back to a place where we, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, understand the difference between politics and governance. And governance here calls for this, Andy, because countries all over the world understand this model. Get the people, stakeholders in the country, and they will defend the country. You will have people in your country, your citizens, working together with each other to push the country forward. If you own your home, and I own my home, and Janice owns her home, and we're all in the same street, our next interest is pushing the value of the street forward. I want the value of my house to go up. Diamond Vale went from what, 50,000 to 2 million? Everybody wants that. You want the equity to increase. I leave it for my children. They get something. That's the whole unwritten social contract. Why is the bottom rung of society not getting to benefit from that? We need to adjust how we approach. And these highfalutin, high-sounding plans that confuse the small people. When you read the document that you get from the small business development company, a small businessman who make it, a tailor, somebody making bread or sugar cake, when you hand them that document, you might as well hand it to them in Greek. We have to learn to keep it simple.
But you don't think this what is called the aided self-help program has some measure of acceptability?
I think that it should be simpler, that you're supposed to be able to transfer the equity for control and just affect it as a mortgage. So if you have a property that we could come and assess and we could say that the value of the property you have right now is $72,000. But if you spend $30,000 on it, it could be worth $200,000, and we're willing to give you the money and work with you to get your property up to that. And now you will just pay one fee per month, which works out like a mortgage. Everybody wins.
And that the people who under any program for public housing or public sponsored housing should be dealing, say, more with the TTMF rather than with
Absolutely. I don't think we should have, I don't even like the term public housing. I find it reduces people and it takes away their pride. Everybody should be able to qualify for finance from the state. I think that once you're an adult and you want a job, the state has a responsibility to help you find a job. And once you have a job and you would like to buy a house, the state has a responsibility to get you into your home. Those two things should be the government's most pressing front burner priorities. Because if everybody are gainfully employed and all of the people are paying for their homes, we'll be too busy to be committing crime and running like gangs in the streets.
And they say that your combined income should not be more than $25,000 a month.
And from the time you say $25,000, you lose 25% of the population.
No, that's the high end. But
what is the bottom rung? But I'm saying to you that these people, the minimum wage earner to that person, $1,000 is what could be spent towards the house. So if you say it's $1,000 to spend towards the house, then as $1,000 towards the mortgage, what can I get for $1,000 now? Nothing. In a society where you remove all the VATs and all the taxes and all the duties and all the stamp duties and the interest rates and the charges on a home, you could reduce $1 million home to $200,000. Westmoreland's townhouses cost $70,000 to build. They want to market for $150,000. They're now selling for $3 million.
Well, $70,000 when that was.
Okay, but your equity should increase. When you look at the how high prices of real estate went, and you contrast and compare that to the raises in salaries and real earnings, you will see where the inflation killed people. A lot of the problem with the price of houses in Trinidad and Tobago right now, Andy, is drug money and corruption money. There are people hiding dirty money in 100 and 200 houses. And a real government would have as a property tax on your primary residence zero tax, 0%.
All right, let me ask you.
I just want to finish this because I want you to understand this. On your second property, 5%. On your third property, 10%. Escalating until it gets to a point where if you own 10 properties, you're paying the value of the property to the state every year, and it will pull that drug and corruption money out of real estate and let the market settle to what real earnings can afford.
All right, 1,845 housing units under this housing construction incentive program by 2020, 2021. You think that is going to become reality?
If it's achievable, yes. Is it practical? No. It helps nobody. It's you're spitting in the ocean. You have 175,000 people, 190,000 people applied for houses. You're building 1,800 houses. I don't see where that makes a difference or a dent. If you created an environment where you worked with the existing banking sector, plus you worked with what you provide here, and you provide the security to defend it, because the banks need customers. First Citizens Bank alone, if First Citizens Bank offers this alone, it'll suck so much of the business away from Republic, Scotia, and Royal Bank, it could close them down. And Scotia, Republic, and Royal have to understand that for all the $500 million customers that they have, it is the $100,000, $10,000 in their account customers that holds the bank up. And that those people, they don't want to lose them. In business, there's something called a loss leader. Yeah. And if home ownership means that this person is going to come into my bank every month to pay his mortgage, he's also going to take part in other activities in the bank that I could earn money from and keep my bank viable.
And there are 24 communities under this aided self-help program.
Again, Andy, I don't know how they're picking and choosing. All I'm saying to you is level the play field, pre-qualify everybody. Make it possible. Once you say that the policy is minimum wage earners can own a home, once you pre-qualify those people and you have 50,000 people outside there walking around with documents saying, I can buy a house for $200,000, the private sector will jump on that. If the state removes taxes, duties, and stamp duties from the construction of starter homes, the private sector, without any prompting, any encouragement from government, would start to build starter home communities. That's how business works.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
Philip Edward Alexander, you did the same thing you wanted to say?
There were two things I want to make, 2 points I want to make. And I want to go back to your first guest. Yeah. And while yes. And you know, while sitting down listening to her, something occurred to me. And that is the whole system she was talking about is all about controlling people and how they think. That's why nothing is being done. And that's why they will always continue to have meetings and nothing will get done, right? The second thing I want to talk about is, remember we every time we come we talk about the media blackout. Yeah. Yesterday on TV6, they got on to Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar to get her comments on the flood. They had the interview with the Prime Minister. And I sent a text message to a certain personnel on TV6 and I said, so, are you going to call Philip and ask for his comments from the Progressive Empowerment Party? And I sent Philip's number. Nothing was done.
And Andy, what Janice is telling you, we were the first out the thing. A PNM supporter sent a comment there saying, while the rest of the people outside there distributing, we inside the station, we had a commitment to you. But before we got here, we loaded all the vehicles. When I came here, the reason I was outside between those two panes of glass was calling Steve Kahn, the manager of this station, home, because I saw that you all have a set of stuff in the front here, and we were dispatching a caravan to the hard-hit communities to continue the work that we did yesterday, because we were the first people on the ground with waters and hampers in any political party. So straighten your friend out there for me, please. When we leave here, the job continues. Right now, while we speak, there are vehicles from the Progressive Empowerment Party in all of the hard-hit communities doing the job.
And whoops, I'll finish. 93.5 FM. Between the music, they said, please send in your information to let us know, you know, the name of your organization and what you're doing.
Hot 93.
Right. I sent in the contact list for the members of the party in the various areas. So you don't have to come in, the South people didn't have to come into town to get stuff. They were organizing for the communities there. And again, nothing was mentioned. You know, so, when I mentioned, yes.
and that's why she wants to say, and I want to say thank you very much for having us.
That's right.
Thank you very much. We're going to take a break. More to come. Stay with us.